What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video. If you don't know who I am, that means you're new. I'm Mark. What's good with y'all? Go check out my other videos. Check them out. Check them out. But first, stay on this one. So this is going to be a interesting video topic. It's not definitely not going to be a super long video. I'm going to tell you guys that right now. So if you're expecting some 15, 16, even 20-minute video, because I've done some pretty long videos, you're not going to get it. So with that being said, let's go ahead, and we're not beating around the bush today. You saw the thumbnail, you read the title, almost mixed them up that time. Almost did. Moving on, though. 3 things I don't like about revolvers. So, of course, you know what I mean? Revolvers have their pros and cons, obviously. Nobody's going to sit here and say that revolvers are such a bad platform that, look, I have a love-hate relationship with revolvers, as most people do. Some of the cons that they have are real big cons to me, as I'm sure it is with some of you guys. And I'm going to get right into it. Now, before I continue on with this video, of course, I will be doing a 3 things I do like about revolvers video. When will that be put out? Probably not today. So, with that being said, we're going to start with number 1. Number 1 is the capacity. I'm sure you guys were going to guess this. I'm sure you guys knew this was going to happen. A majority of revolvers, on average, they have about a 5 to 6 round capacity. That's just how many the cylinder holds. Is that the worst capacity out there? No. I mean, Derringer's already, that's worse. But is it a great capacity? No. Excuse me, not by any capacity. The whole point is that with that little of rounds that you can have at your disposal, you're going to have to reload very often in a situation where you're using more than what your cylinder has. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to argue, oh, well, according to these people, it says you're only going to need this many rounds, and they bring up the rule of 3s, and that turns into a whole thing. If you haven't seen my video, I actually did a video debunking the rule of 3s. But that's neither here nor there. With a low capacity, you are really risking you're treading a thin line, is the best way to say it. And now think about it like this: in a situation where, for example, you're out and about, concealed carry, which I think is a more common use for revolvers than people realize. But when you're out and about, let's say a situation happens, you have to use your firearm. If you miss, that's just 1 round gone. And I'm sure some of y'all are like, oh, yeah, well, if you miss with a semi-auto, that's also 1 round gone. Yeah, but 1 round gone in, say, even a Glock 26 is 1 out of 10. Or, if you have one in the chamber, 1 out of 11. You see what I mean? That's not that big of a deal compared to 1 out of 6, 1 out of 7, 1 out of 5. Now, of course, as I just kind of briefly touched on there are some revolvers that have a higher capacity than 5 or 6 rounds in the cylinder. There are some that have 7. As a matter of fact, the revolver I plan on getting for my first revolver has 7, can hold 7 rounds. So once again, this isn't to say that, revolvers are all 5 or 6 shot guns. I'm not saying that by any capacity, but what I am saying is that the amount of rounds that all revolvers, you can literally bring down all of them, and they're not going to hold anywhere near as good of a capacity as somebody like I would want to have. So therefore, it's a pretty big con for me. Now, moving on to number 2, which kind of goes hand in hand with number 1. You guys are going to see what I'm talking about. I am not a big fan of the reloads on revolvers. Now, I'm sure, you can get some moon clips, whatever, you can, there are ways to make reloading quicker with revolvers. I'm not saying there isn't. However, the problem with that is that, do you know what you need to do to be quicker with a semi-auto reload? Practice. That's it. You don't need to buy anything special. You don't need to do any of that. You just need to practice a bit. With a revolver, you're literally tossing the cylinder from the frame, not taking it out entirely, but you guys know what I mean. You're going to go ahead and eject the rounds by pushing down on the little plunger, is what I call it. And then you're going to have to sit there. If you don't have a moon clip, you're going to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever. You're going to have to load each round by hand if you don't have a little moon clip. And moon clips, by the way, are only for, I can English. They're only for centerfire cartridges. They're not for rimfire cartridges. So, with that being the case, that already kind of limits you down to another issue there, but I'm not going to get into that. That's not even on my list of the three. So back to reloads. Overall, it takes more effort, it takes more time, and not to mention you still have less rounds. Now let's go ahead and take a 6-shot revolver, right? I go ahead and I'm in a situation where I have to use it, fire all 6 rounds. I have to reload. I go ahead and reload, fire another 6 rounds. I go ahead and reload again, right? I fired 12 rounds, and it would have taken me the time it would have to fire like 33 rounds, if not more, out of a standard semi-auto, and that's including reloading. So dropping the mag, putting a new mag into the gun. You see what I mean here? Overall, the reloads as a whole take a lot longer than they should, especially for a gun for self-defense. Now, I will say, to the revolver's credit, it obviously is a much older platform of firearm. So, of course, you know what I mean? It's not like people way, way back then were, saying, oh, yeah, well, in the future, they're going to have semi-auto handguns that are going to, reload much quicker. So let's go ahead and purposely make reloading slow. Excuse me. That wasn't exactly the thought that was put in when revolvers were created. So I will say that, of course, it's not like revolvers are a newer platform of firearms, so I'm not going to sit here and put that to that standard. However, I still will say that with how long it takes to reload and realistically what you get out of the reload, which kind of goes hand in hand with the capacity, doesn't really seem worth it to me. It pretty much just all seems like a big con. Now, moving on from number 2, number 3, which I think is the most crucial point, and I actually talked about this did an entire episode of Debunking Gun Myths. I don't know if you can tell, I'm very tired today, but yes, revolvers, they do malfunction less technically. However, the malfunctions they do have are much more difficult to clear. They're much more problematic to deal with, especially in a situation where you're using your firearm. Now, some of y'all might be wondering what I'm talking about. However, with your standard semi-auto, when you have a malfunction, what do? Tap rack, you maybe lock the slide back after dropping the mag, depending what kind of malfunction it is. If the timing's off on the cylinder of your revolver, and that conveniently just so happens to cause malfunctions during a situation where you have to use your firearm, how are you going to fix that? You have to disassemble your revolver entirely and then get it all fixed, reassemble, and then you're good to go. You're back in the fight. Do you know how long that actually takes? That takes a good long time to do, and most people aren't exactly carrying around tools to disassemble their gun with them when they're out and about. Now, of course, I pretty much only talk about it from a concealed carry aspect today. However, that doesn't really change anything as far as even home defense or whatever. That none of those really change with any of these cons. So that's why I haven't gone into talking about any of them as well. Now, back to what I was saying. The amount of time that it takes to clear legitimate malfunctions on revolvers is detrimental, especially if you're in a life or death situation. So therefore, truth be told, guys, whether you want to admit it or not, that right there is the biggest deal for me. Because, of course, with a semi-auto, yeah, there are more types of malfunctions, but all of those are very easy and quick to clear. Like, extremely easy and quick to clear, especially if you've practiced. Yeah, I'm sure you can get much quicker with, fixing your revolver if you practice, but it's still it will never be as quick as with a semi-auto. Now, with that being said, I think that about wraps it up for this video. Overall, I think I picked 3 pretty good cons or pretty good things I don't like about the revolver. As I said before, the revolver, like it's one about revolvers. There we are. Geez, I can English today, guys. But with that being said, y'all make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, hit that bell. When you hit that bell, hit all. And whether or not you agree with me on these 3 things that I don't like about revolvers, go ahead and comment down below why or why not you agree with me. And comment down some things that you don't like about revolvers as well. With that being said, y'all make sure to stay legal. Why did I point that way? Jeez. With that being said, y'all make sure to stay legal, stay safe, stay dangerous. Have a good one, y'all. Peace.